Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on step 12 of our Inside Out project. In this step, we're just going to do the book page. We're actually using a lot of code that we've already learned, and we're just seeing different ways of using it and becoming more and more familiar with the code. The more you use code, the more you manipulate code, write code, the better you understand it, the better you understand it, the better code you write, and the more you actually enjoy it. So in this lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start on the book on complete our books page under things. Our page is going to basically have a quote at the top, and then these nice little cards to flip over when you hover over them, along with a link that will take you out to information about the book. I use Wikipedia pretty much for all the images and the content that I use. This is not about you being a content expert. This is about you entering content into the code, which forces you to pay attention to the code and look at it. The way that we're going to start off basically is copying our folder like we always do, and something a little new to the projects that will be forward now is I changed the change log a little bit, have a little bit of a review. Any files that were updated, it will tell you what the updates were. In this case, the style.css is the update, and so on and so forth. And additionally, the completed file is located below for you to review or last-ditch effort if you need to. If you need to do some copying and pasting to get some code, you should be able to simply do it in here now. I've made it a lot easier. You can literally select inside. We learned about iframes, and that's what I'm using. I'm pulling a text file in, and so it allows you to select all the code, copy it, and use it if all else fails. It doesn't mean you're going to get everything on top. I will update what code we add in here on the top here, but this is our final code. This is the code that I'm using for this page here. In preparation, you have seen in previous videos and have been asked, is this required? No, it is not. But one of the best things you can do when you're dealing with content and you're pulling content into code, the best thing you can do is get your content ready. There's nothing worse than starting to code and then having to go find content as you're coding. It becomes very difficult and hard to, a lot of mistakes. You can make a lot of mistakes. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves ready. The way that we get ready is we take a copy of our step 11 folder. That was our last HTML step. We copy it, rename it to 12, go out to our brackets, go to File, Open Folder, go to that folder you just created, step 12, select it, and now we are ready to go. One of the things while you're dealing with your folder, we can go ahead and do one of the very first steps, which is, as you can see, our images. We're starting to get a lot of images, and we'll actually loop back at some point and get rid of, move our movie and music images into their own folder. But for now, one of the things that you can do under images is we're going to create a folder, right click, books, and the images that we use for our books, we're actually going to store inside this folder so that we start to reduce the number of images that can get out of hand and crazy in here. And like I said, there's a point where we're going to discuss what refactoring is, and we're going to fix a couple of things that are in the site, such as if you notice in our movies page we have an offset, and our music page we have an offset. That's okay. We're doing that for a reason, because what we will end up doing is learning about what refactoring is and coming back and just cleaning up some code and taking care of a few things. So now we're ready to get going. Let's go ahead and let's get started on our close our images folder and get started on our books page. So we'll go ahead and open up our books.html. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and take care of the style sheet. I'm not making you write styles. Basically, the idea is for you to learn, get an introduction to styles. This is an introductory course. So I don't expect you to be able to write styles. What I'm looking for you to be able to do is recognize them and see what they're doing for you. So to get that going, what we need to do is go out to our resource page, our changelog, and we'll go ahead and we'll go inside books CSS, and we'll go in here and we'll select all and we'll copy. What this is basically all the styles and the transitions. We'll talk about them a little bit, and controlling the cards that we're putting onto our books page. We want to name it books CSS, and we want to put it inside our CSS folder. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and we'll go back to our brackets. We'll come to our CSS folder. We'll right click on it and we'll say new file, and we'll call it books.css. Now that we have that in here and we have it open, we have it selected up here, we'll go ahead and we'll paste all of those styles in here. All the page flipping are transforms in CSS. Really cool effects with just CSS in your page. We'll hit save. We'll go over here to our books.html page. And right here in the top, we're going to go ahead and we're going to, I always just cheat, select, copy and paste. And we know we want books. And that is good. While we're up here, let's be good coders, and let's put a comment in. Our global CSS used in every page. So this is our CSS file, of course, that gives our navigation and everything else that we want. The styling that we are looking for, and then let's go ahead and let people know if they're coming in and working on our code. Our books CSS used only in the books page. That's good enough. Commenting, remember, commenting is really just to let people know what's going on, what different things are being used for, things of that nature. All right, great. So we have our header. We're not going to do anything in our header, so let's collapse that. And let's go inside our section, and we'll get rid of that paragraph tag. And I'm going to go ahead and open up our section quite a bit. We're going to be doing quite a bit of work in our section. So I'm going to just come in here and give it a line. And we're going to create our quote div. So the first thing we want to do is, again, we're going to start really focusing on some commenting as well. Commenting is really important. So quote in the top of page directly below the header element. Again, just a little bit of information. And so to put our quote in there, first thing we want to do is we want to open up a div. And we're going to give it a class of container and div quote. So the container, that'll come into play later. We're kind of preemptively putting it in there. In Web 1.15, we will take something called Bootstrap and put it into our site, and we're kind of just preparing ourselves for that. All right, so we've opened and closed this div container. We wanted to just basically hold our quote, and so what we're going to do now is go ahead and put our quote inside of it, and we're going to give it a class of pquote. The reason we're doing it with a class and we're doing it the way we are is because we're going to start using, well, actually, when we move on to our websites page, we'll be able to actually copy this code and put it right over into our websites page, saving us a little time. Something we like to do whenever possible is, have time saver to do things. So at this point, I can go ahead. I have my P quote. And then the other thing I want to do before anything else is I want to go ahead and I want to add the paragraph for the author as well. So we'll call that P quote author. And we'll close that off too. So now at this point, I can do exactly what I told you about getting your file together. The nice thing is we can come in, we can grab our quote, we can take that, and we can paste that right in there. We can come down, we can get our author, we can paste that right in there as well. We can hit save, and then let's go ahead and do a live preview. And so with our live preview, the nice thing is, right, we can get a look at what's going on, how we're doing with our page, what's happening with it. And we'll just continue to take a peek at that once in a while. If you have double monitors, it's really nice because you can just watch your development as you go. And you can also use it if you see with live preview, you can go ahead and you can select elements and see what's going on with them. All right. I hit the index page. We'll go back, take a look there. And we got our section, and we're good to go. All right. So we uncollapsed our header. I'm going to collapse that back up, bring my code back up. And the next thing that we want to do is start working on our books, our listing of books. One of the best things that you can do for yourself when you're coding, right? So we're going to open up another div container. I'm cheap. I'll just go ahead, put this in here, paste that in there, get rid of the quote, just call it a container, closes it out. Oops, make sure I'm clean. And I'm going to go ahead and open up that container. And what we're going to use this container for is to hold all of our code that the books are going to come into. I am copying and pasting a lot, and I'm doing this to save time for the video. What we want to do is we want to comment on the top and on the bottom of this div before we go any further. And we want to put beginning and ending of books listing. The reason we want to do that is it definitely gives us an opportunity to be able to identify where we're at in our code when we're kind of working on things and we're trying to see what's going on. It helps us to know really what's going on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a div inside our container. Again, remember I'm copying and pasting a lot. It's just makes sense, better for the time. Here we have the start of Henry David Thoreau. That's the first book I'm going to work with. And then we have, go ahead and put the end. Real important with these guys, because what we're going to do is make this first panel, and then we're going to duplicate it. So we want to make sure that we're very careful. And probably the best way to do it is title, author. And we're doing this because when we go and we copy and paste it, we want to set the card up and then copy and paste it and then just go ahead and use our text file. Much easier way to go about it. So what this is doing in here, this is telling the div that when a mouse goes over it to execute this JavaScript. And what the JavaScript is doing is it's telling the DOM, the browser, hey, this, meaning the div that we're focused on, assign it a new class. And what that class is hover panel. And that's, oh, sorry, that's mouse out. So this is actually when you leave. This is when you come in, mouse over, and it's telling it to assign it the class of flip. So it's telling it to keep the class that it has, but apply the flip class to it. And if we go and we look at the flip class, what we'll see is transitions. We can see we have the rotate. It's telling it to rotate around. So as far as the JavaScript goes for this lesson, you just, all you have to do is use what's provided to you. The next thing that we want to do is we want to put in there the front of the card. So we'll go ahead and we'll indent, and we'll put a div class, and the class that we want here is front. Go ahead and open up our div so that we can put things in front of it and inside it. And for the front of the card, what we want on there, if we go and we look at, if we actually look at our example that we have available to us, what we want on the front of the card is the title, the picture, and the author. So the first thing that we want in the front is the title, which will go up top, and we'll go ahead and we'll make another div to hold that, and class, and we'll call that front title. Pretty brilliant, huh? And here we'll put title. And so we'll fill that in with the title then. Right now we should be able to go over and take a look, and we can see it starting to come together already, just as we're adding things. And so now that we have the title, let's go ahead and in the front we're going to put the image. And for the image, we're going to use several classes, and we're actually going to not use an image tag. We're actually going to use a div, and then we're going to, in the CSS, assign the image in the background. Right now, this is looking to Henry David Thoreau, which if we go into the CSS, if we actually do a copy find, go into our CSS and do a find and paste that Thoreau, we'll see in there that we actually have a class that's named Walden-Thoreau, and we're setting the background images through there. The reason we're doing that is because we want the option to be able to use that div and leverage that div for multiple things, instead of just putting an image in there and having it completely consume all the available space. In this case, we're not even going to return the close because we're not putting anything in there just yet, and we want to make sure that it can stay and hold any information that we might put in there. The next thing we're going to do is it has a class of, and it could be better named, but for now it's okay, front class location. So we know in there we want the author. So if I save that and I go look at my card, we see we have the author, we have the title, and we'll get the image in a minute. But now what we want to do is go ahead and take care of the back of the card. We currently have no back. So what we're telling it with that JavaScript, what we're telling our code to do is on mouse over, assign it this name of flip. Well, what it's really doing is swapping out with another div, and the other div is not there currently for it to see. So what we have to do is go ahead and put in our back div. So we have our front, and then we're going to do our back. And inside our back div, we're going to put back title. We'll go ahead and close that out as well. Let's bring that down. And what we're going to want in here for the back title, what we're trying to do is set ourselves up so we can just copy and paste. So what we want here is title by last name. So author's last name. We can, if you want. And if you notice, I kept it all one word. And this is so when we start copying and pasting, I can just click on that and grab that all in one shot instead of having to drag and copy and get all the information. All right, so we have the back title. The next thing that we want to put in here is the go ahead, just create the div first, then class, and the class that we want in there is back paragraph. And this is where our actual content will go. So we'll call it details info. We'll go in there. After that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create one more inside of the back. We're going to create one more div. And that div is going to be back go to. And so our back go to class is that link that we allow when someone wants to click and go read more information about where we're going, about our current book. What we're going to do is put an anchor tag in there. I'm going to copy and paste that for the sake of time. And we can go ahead and inside our anchor, our href is what we use to tell the link where we want to send the person when they hit the link. So we'll put link location here. Remember, we're creating a little template for ourselves is essentially what we're doing. Our target, we're giving it a target of blank. And the reason we're giving it a target of blank is because what'll happen with a target of blank is if I click on it, blank means it'll open a new tab. It'll keep your page open. And if you can see, we're making progress here, by the way. We have our info, our link, our information, all in there, all going very well. Here again, what we want is title and author. So remember, we're creating and title and author. But out here, what we want is author's last name. In here, we want the full name, so we'll just say author. So at this point, we should have, we're closing. So that's our back, our front, and that's our closing. And so at this point, we now have our card with all of our information in it. Our link is working. And now we can actually take our card and we can do the magical moment with it, which is we can collapse this. I'm grabbing the line above it and the line below it. And I did a copy. And I'm going to paste it 6 times. I'm actually going to overwrite what's on there, actually to make it easier for people so there's no confusion. Let's just bring it down to that line right below it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I should have 6 cards out here now, which I do. And they all work. I'm going to save that. And then the next thing that we want to do is I've already gathered my images And you should gather your images. And what we're going to do is simply take these images. I'm going to try something that I don't know if it's going to work or not. And I'm going to drag it. I want to see if they went. Nope. They sure did not. So let's do it like this. I'm going to close them up. So again, we want to take our images. I'm going to copy them. I'm going to look inside my images, my books. I'm going to right click on it. And I'm going to say show and explore. And that's a really nice feature because now there's my books. I'm inside my books folder. I'm going to right click and paste. And then close that. And now all of my book images are inside of here. The next thing, as we get started and we want to be able to see things go, we'll come back to our card in a minute. We have our page in a minute. We have 6 cards created. We want to go focus now on our books CSS. And what we want to do is we want to recognize that we're pulling from the books directory. We placed our images in there. We want it to be a ... because it needs to come out of books out of CSS and then go look in the images. Out of the CSS folder, it stays in assets, but what it wants to do is it wants to see the images folder and then the books folder and then the actual image name. So at this point, I'm cheating a little, but I have my author, my book name in here, the image in here, and I already have it lined up. And so I can go now, and I will scroll up. And one thing you may want to do, definitely can make life a little easier for you, is come down here. And each one of these divs that's holding a card, you can actually collapse. And it makes it much easier when you're working in your code by collapsing these and getting them out of the way so that you can stay focused on exactly what it is that you're working on. So at this point, I have everything collapsed. I'm going to start on my first card. And the way that I'll do that is I'll come out to my text file that I created. I've copied my images over. And I'm going to go ahead and honestly, instead of hopping back and forth, I'm going to grab all the information I need for the first one. And I have it all opened up. And what I can do is right down here, I'm just going to paste it in there. That's the title. So now I know I can go through anywhere that there's a title, right? Title. And I believe I hit all the titles. Then I can go through and look for anywhere that we want the author's full name. And that would be author. Remember, that's last name there. Author. We'll take last name, author's last name, author's last name. And then we have our content that we want to use. We come up and that's the details info. Paste that in there. We have our link. We got that ahead of time. So we can go ahead and put it right there in link location. And then we have our image. What we do with our image at this point is we actually need to go and align it with our CSS. And you can name your CSS whatever you want. To make it easy, it's okay. I have it named accordingly. But what you can do is you can come out and you can say, you could do book 1. Book 1. Put your image in here, which I have. Copy book 1. Save it. Make sure you save it. go back there, and right here in between front logo and book image CS class, paste in that book 1 class. And what will happen is your image will end up inside your book 1. Excellent. So at this point, I could close this one. And by the way, it's a good idea to go ahead and put in there author, screwed that up a little bit, but that's okay. Grab Walden. And at this point, that completes our card. Hit save, go out, take a look, and our card is working perfectly. Excellent. So now that I did that one, go ahead and try to do the rest. I will loop back after I'm completed with mine so we can have a full view of what the completed project. All right, great. So I have completed all of my entries, as I believe you probably have as well. You can go ahead, use the change log to reference the code if you're having difficulties figuring something out or not sure what changed or how something worked. Take a look at it. Make sure that you don't have some mistakes. My code, the code that's in the change log, is this actual code that you're looking at. And that will conclude our books page. And at this point, you should be able to click, by the way, and go to your book. And when you submit it, you should have the title, the reference, a little bit of information, and should be good to go. Awesome. So remember, lean on the changelog if you need to, and we'll see you in the next lesson.